Welcome back. Our show has three segments each week. The first two includes the expert on our panel joining us today, and the last segment in our restaurant reality segment. This is the time when we give you the full inside scoop and unbridled truth about buying or selling a restaurant. We didn't sell hundreds of restaurants by being afraid of the four-letter words in the industry, the F word for fail and the S word for sale.
Okay, we're back with our industry experts. We're going to start out with Brett Thorne, who is with Nation's Restaurant News, is the senior food editor. Brett, let me ask you this. What are some common mistakes? As restaurant brokers, we often have to sell those bars or restaurants that make the mistakes in the industry. So what are some common mistakes when you're developing a beverage program?
I think a lot of bars and restaurants get ahead of themselves and become too ambitious, and if they execute a bar program badly or even a drink badly, that's something customers are not likely to forgive. So I think it's best to sort of implement a program step by step as your staff can handle it, educating along the way, rather than diving in and trying to do things that you're not really ready to accomplish yet. I think that's a huge one.
Right.
And Dan, what's your take on some of the common mistakes you see out there when you guys come in into messy situation? What are some of the recurring trends that you're seeing out there as far as mistakes?
Again, clients that are trying to do way too much with their program and don't realize how complicated it actually is, and not realizing that a lot of times now basic is better, that a simple, well-done execution of cocktails and certain beers and wines can be plenty for what the guest is looking for right now. It doesn't need to, come out with sparklers and fireworks and so forth. A good, straightforward, well-done beverage program works every time.
I want to switch gears a minute and talk about some competitors to the kind of traditional industry. And again, Brett, we're huge readers of Nation's Restaurant News, and one recent article talked about some research that shows that food trucks are stealing visits from quick service restaurants. Is it your belief that a strong beverage program, something that potentially food trucks could not replicate, or for either regulatory reasons or space constraints, is that one way that operators can help retain some market share in the face of this food truck competition we're seeing?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, food trucks have the advantage of being small and agile and mobile and having low startup costs, but they can't be handing out cocktails and mugs of beer, and so that's certainly a point of distinction that brick and mortar restaurants can have, and bars, and drawing people with your strengths, which certainly can be a strong beverage program, ought to help.
Good. And Dan, you have the same feedback?
Yeah, I think that I think that's absolutely correct. I think having a great beverage program does allow you to compete against food trucks and other concepts out there. We provide a menu program to our clients who have an extensive beer list. And interestingly, they like it because they're able to, through social media, to communicate to their customers and let them know when specific beers have come in, or that they only have a certain amount of a specific flavor left. And they're thrilled with the fact that drives loyal customers through the door that are looking for those specific beer brands. And clearly a food truck isn't going to be able to compete with that.
Good. That's good inference. Since Robin took us off the beaten path here, I want to stay there for a little bit. We talk about alcoholic beverages here a lot. We talk about young people, 23-year-old and something. I want to take it back to below 21. We are talking about, a generation where, 13-year-old, 14-year-olds are drinking Starbucks coffees and all kinds of different drinks. When I was 14 years old, if I had coffee, I would probably be in my room for the next 30 days with no dessert. Where are we seeing virgin drinks or beverage program that is going to at least get some flavors in to kind of get the younger generation, when they turn 21, to be able to experiment more into and get them into your beverage program? Are we seeing any trends like that, Dan? You talk about that?
We don't. We work so specifically with spirits and beer and wine that we have not seen a lot of trends out there with the clients that we're working with. And truthfully, it's a little bit of a slippery slope. If you start doing, alcohol-free beverage out there extensively targeted towards kids, I think there's some concerns in the marketplace from parents that could be encouraging kids to get into drinking earlier, and that's clearly something that a bar owner, restaurant owner wants nothing to do with. So, as I said, it's not something that we come across on a regular basis, and it's something that if you are doing it as an owner, I think you have to be cautious about the message you're sending and what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Brett?
But there are plenty of adults who don't drink also, or who are driving, or who,
Right.
For whatever reason on that night aren't going to be drinking. And to offer them an alternative to sparkling water or a soda that you can sell for $1 or $2, both allows you to make more money, but I think even more importantly, keeps them from feeling left out of a celebratory evening. And if you can give them a really nicely crafted handmade soda, for example, and it can be as simple as pouring a syrup into a bottle of sparkling water, you have an attractive drink that customers will appreciate, and they appreciate the special attention. I one time had a meal at the French Laundry, a very, very high-end fine dining restaurant in Napa Valley, and during the meal, right at the beginning of the meal, I realized one of my friends was pregnant, and they did the most amazing non-alcohol beverage pairing. They brought out sparkling soda. They had a black cherry soda that went with a liver dish. I mean, it was really incredible to watch that, and it was all we talked about the meal.
That is.
Yeah, there's a definite growth in the craft soda space, as you're saying, and I think that's fantastic, as well as specialty teas and so forth. But I think positioning those as a general non-alcoholic product to everybody is great. As I said, the key is that when you're specifically targeting something to kids, that's when it's a challenge.
I think that is going to wrap up about all of the time we have today. We want to thank both of our experts for joining us on the first two segments at We Sell Restaurants, our radio show heard both live on the radio and available by podcast on the iTunes store after the event. I want to remind you can find us online at WeSellRestaurants.com. Take just a moment and like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/WeSellRestaurants. We are on Twitter at Sell Restaurants, and of course we're on LinkedIn as well. We Sell Restaurants is your industry authority and source for information, and we are the restaurant brokers, Eric and Robin Gagnon.